Hello folks, in this video we will learn about PostgreSQL by building a simple to-do list application. And to get started, you must have PostgreSQL downloaded on your system. So this is the official website and you can download and install from here. And we also need pgadmin to interact nicely with our database. So I will be back to my VS Code and we will start working from our backend. So in my to-do list PostgreSQL folder, I have a client and a server. In my client, I have a simple React app initialized and I have also initialized Tailwind CSS for styling. So we will come to the client later. We also have the server folder and here I have one empty index.js file and we will start working from here. So first things first, we need few dependencies. So I will simply install npmi, express and cors. We may also need .env. That's all for now. And we also need pg to interact with our database. So in my index.js file, I will first of all import express equals to require express, then cors equals to require cors, and then also .env equals to require .env, and then we also have to give .env .config, and these dependencies are installed. So we also need nodemon so that we don't have to restart our server again and again. So I will install nodemon as a dev dependency. So npmi -t nodemon. Okay. So now we will create few routes and then we will see how to start working with our database. So I will have one app equals to express, and then we also need few middlewares. So I will use app.use express JSON to read from our body, and we also need to app.use cors. Now let's create one base route and we will here have request and response, and let's simply do res.json and message homepage, and lastly app.listen, and here we need to give a port. So let's create one port, const port, and I want to create one .env file, and here I will keep my port. So .env, and here I will have my port equals to, let's give it 3000, and in my index.js I can simply write port equals to process.env.port, and now I can app.listen on the port, and let's also print few lines. Let's write console log app running on port, whatever is the port, 3000 in this case. Now let me run my server. So I will write nodemon and then index.js. So let's see, app running on port 3000, that means our app is running. Let's go to localhost 3000 and we have a message homepage. So that means our app is working fine. Okay, now we need to connect with our database, and here I have already opened the pgadmin, and here you can have some databases. I have three, for example, Postgres, SalesDB and ToDo'sDB, and inside a database you can create tables, and inside the tables we will store all our data. So here as a sample I have already created one ToDo'sDB like database, and here I have one table called todo. So inside my ToDo'sDB I can come down, I will have schemas, and inside schemas I can open the public one, and here I will have the tables. So here I have one todo table, and for this example I will create another table, but this is how the pgadmin looks like. And here you can also write queries. So for example, select star from to do, and right now Let's see. I have nothing. So this is how it will work. Okay, so let's see how we can connect with our database. So to connect with our database, I will create another file, and let's name the file as db.js. And what do I want in the db.js? First of all, I want to import few things from the library called pg that we have installed. So we have pg here. pg, you can say Postgres. We need this to connect with our database. So let's say pool equals to require pg. So I am only taking pool from my pg library. And now let me create pool, and here I need to give few things. So new pool, and here I need to give my user, then my password, then my host, and then also my port, and lastly which database I want to connect to. Database. Now the user, I have Postgres. You may also have the same. And password is whatever password you have selected. I have selected ABCD1234. It is not like using this password you can hack into my system, so I can share it. But if it's a website in the production, try not to share these things. And then host will be localhost. And lastly, I have port, that will be 5432. Possibly it's same for you also, unless you have changed explicitly. And database, I will use the to-dos DB only, but I will create a new table. So database will be to-dos DB. And here, let me simply do module.exports equals to pool. And now we will see whether or not we can connect with our database. So in my index.js, let me try to connect with our database. So how can we do that? So let me create another route. Let's name it app.get to-dos. So here we will have all our to-dos, and this will be one async function, request and response. And what do we want to do here? First of all, let me create one try catch block. In case we have some errors, we will simply do res.json error. And inside my try part, I want to check basically whatever to-dos we have or don't have, and accordingly simply send to the client, and that's all. So here for the time being, let's simply do res.json, and here message a home page. And if I now go to 3000 and then to-dos, I have home page. But what we want to do is we want to basically get all my to-dos here. So let's say I have one table already in my PG admin, and that is this to-do. And now let's try to basically insert few things in our to-do table and try to get that same thing inside our to-dos. Or let's say let us create a new table only, and then we can basically see we are able to connect or not. So I will go back to my server, and here I will create some let's say SQL query to create a table. So how can we create a table in SQL? So if you know basic SQL, you will know that we create a table by writing something like create table to do. And in case you don't know SQL, that is also fine. You can follow along this tutorial. These queries are quite simple only. I will be making another tutorial on SQL queries only, and then you can catch up, or you can also watch some other tutorials or something. It's SQL is really simple. Okay, so creatable to do we already have. So let's name this one to do table. And here what do we want? We want first of all one to do ID, which will be the IDs of the to do. This will be a serial, so that it is incremented by 1, and this will also be the primary key. That is this is one unique identifier for this table. And after the to do ID, we want the to do description. That is basically whatever is our to do. You can also add more things, but this will be a simple to-do list only. So we will only have to do description with varchar of 255, that is, it will accept characters up to 255. And then lastly, we will have one checkbox, so that will be to do completed, and this will be one boolean, and the default will be false. So by default, we will not have the to do as done. That's all. Okay. So now we have this to do table here, and now what do we want to do? So in our index.js, this app.get, this is trying to get the to-dos, but what we want to do is we first of all want to insert some to-dos. So we have to do one post, and then only we can do the get. So let's write our post query. So here first of all I will have app.post. So using post, we can now add entries into the to-do. So we will have another async request response, and here again another try catch. So if we have error, I will simply do res.json error, and when we don't have an error, I want to add up my to-do. So to test this thing, we will use Postman. When our client will be made, we can use our client, but for now we will use Postman, and from the Postman we will be sending our description and completed in the body. So here I am inside my Postman, and I have already made the basically the request for the to-do list. So we have the home page, and if I click on send, we have message home page, we have get to-dos. So if I click on send, I will have a message home page again. I think this was not changed. This should be to-dos page. To-dos page. Send. We are at to-dos page. So here we are checking the post add to do. So let's say we are sending one description and one completed. And before sending, you must also see that this raw radio button is checked and the type is JSON. So let's simply give one description, read books, and the completed is let's explicitly give true for this one. And now what do we want to do is we want to see how can we get these things in our basically VS Code. So here we have app.post to-dos, and here I can simply do const of description and completed equals to request.body. So I'm destructuring directly, and we will have these things. And then what do we want to do? We want to now write one query that will basically add these things inside my table, to do completed or whatever table. So how can we do that? So let's write something new to do over here, and I can write await, and then we have a pool dot query. I think there is some issue, and the issue is that we haven't really imported pool that need to be imported in the index.js. So after my .env, let me simply import the pool equals to require, and then simply from the DB we will import our pool. So it's done. So now the pool will be in darker blue. That means it is able to identify the pool. And what is a query that I want to give? So inside double quotes, I will write insert into. This is how we can insert basically items into to-do lists. So we will use the second table, that is to-do table. And what are the things we want to give? So let's name it's not like let's name. We have to do description and to do completed. We have to use the exact same names. We cannot write anything, just anything. So the name of the table is to do table, and these three names should be like written as they are declared. So we have to do, then DESC, then to do completed, and then we will give some values, and the values we will give something like this: $1, $2. These are like arguments. So to do description is the first argument, then we have the second argument, and returning star. This is more for the response. Even if you don't give the returning star, it will work just fine. but I will give it here. Maybe later I'll show you what is the difference, but you can simply follow along as of now. So after this, we have to give the real values, and those are description and my completed. So now we have the post, and lastly we will send something. So what we will send is let's say we will send our new to do, and then we will also send one message that to do added, and lastly there will be one success equals to success is true. Okay, now let's see if it works or not. And also in my get to dos I will also query this thing, and let's see we get our get to dos or not. So here I will write const to dos equals to my basically await, then pool dot query, and what do we want to do? It is very simple, and that is select star from to do table. That's all. And yeah, so now let's see whether we get our to dos or not. Yeah, so I will go to my postman, I will click on send, and as you can see there is some kind of error we are getting, and why we are getting the error we will see in our VS Code. Let's see, we are getting some information or not. So we have localhost 3000 to dos, we are sending description and completed as true. Let's try to find out that whether they are able to read it or not. So in my to dos I have description and completed, we are getting it from request.body. Let's try to simply console log my description and my completed also. Let's see we are able to get it or not, otherwise it's a serious issue. So let me click on send. We have errors, and we have read books and true. So we are getting these things, but we are not able to do the remaining part, and that is we are not able to basically add them inside my table. So what is the issue? Let me just check the issue and I'll be back soon. And the issue is actually very silly, and that is we have not really created our to do table. So here we have only one table, and that is to do. So let me simply copy the SQL query that we have written in the todos.sql, and I will paste it over here, and this will basically create one table, to do table. So let me just run this thing, and query returns successfully. And now if I refresh, so let me try to find the refresh, and now we will have two tables, to do table. So now the to do table doesn't have anything, but that we will see here, that whether we are able to add it or not. So now let me simply send this thing, and as you can see we have a different response, and the response is actually correct. We are able to get few things, so new to do, command row count, and all of these things we have. We may be having something called rows maybe. Okay, success true. Okay, it has many things. Let me just try to get our to dos, then we are done with it. So in our app.get to dos we are trying to select star from to do table, and let me just copy this one and paste it in my pgadmin run. We have one empty, not an empty table, we have the read books here, and so we have the data entered, and now we want the same thing to be done with our basically our code. So we have to dos, and when I'm sending the response, the message is to dos page, and we also want the to dos, then the message to dos page, and lastly I don't think there is any success over here. So now let me simply refresh, and as you can see we have a very big thing, and it seems odd. So I will simply do is to dos dot rows, and now let me simply refresh. I think there will be some issues here. Okay, let me simply send the to dos and refresh. We have a very big thing, and row count, this that many things. In my postman, if I go to get to dos and now click on send, we have this big thing again, and I think the to-dos will be present inside something called rows, but I am not able to see the rows. Let's see if I am able to get it or not. Okay, see, there is the rows, and the rows have the to-do ID 1, read books, and to-do completed as true. So now in my VS Code, if I simply return, let's say to-do dot rows, now we will only basically get this part. So this actually works. So we are able to get the to-dos, and we are also able to add the to-dos. So now let's work on few more routes. So after get and post to-dos, I may be willing to have a few more routes, like something like to-dos, then colon ID. This is a get to-dos by, like, get a to-do by specific ID, something like this. And then we will again have async request and then response, then another try catch, and inside the catch I will have res.json, and then error. Try part will be different, so we will be working on it separately. But first of all, let me just create the other routes that we may be needing. So get to-dos colon ID, and then we will need something called put, and then the same thing. So what this put will do is it will allow us to edit our to-dos. So we can click on the edit button in our React app, and that will allow us to edit the to-dos. And then we will need one route for the delete. So this will be allowing us to delete a specific to-do by the ID, and let's say we will also be having one delete all, something like that. So we need another route for that. So here I will remove the ID, and this is like the delete all. Yeah. So now for the to-do by ID, let's see what we want to do over here. So we can get the ID by writing something like this. We already know this, we have done it many times. So request.params, we will get the ID, and then we will have a to-do, and again we will have await, and then pool.query. And now we basically want to get our to-do by our ID. So what can we write? So we will write select star from to-do table. This one is not to-do, the last one was to-do, this is to-do table, and where my to-do ID equals to $1, and this is my argument, and the argument is basically my ID. That's all. And then we will want to send something, so we will send res.json to-do.rows. Okay, so now we know that my to-do has the ID of 1. So let's see if I can write to-dos then 1, and we have our to-do description, read books, and all of these things. So let me just try to add one more to-do, and let's see if it works or it's all hoax. So read books, let me write read code. We generally write code, but I believe it's also a good habit sometimes to read other people's code. So send, and we have this one here with a to-do ID of 2, and get to-dos, we have 2 here. And now let's see, instead of 1, let me put 2, and we have the second one, so it works. Okay, now we will edit our to-dos. So we have put to-dos ID, and what do we want to do over here? Again we will get our ID by something like this, request params, and then what do we want? And for our edit, we will also be getting the description and our completed, and that we will be sending either from Postman or from the front end. So we will have description and completed equals to request body, and then we will have a const to do, and what is the query this time? So await pool.query, and here I will use the update command. So update to do, and then set to do description equals to my $1, which is the first argument, and then comma to do completed equals to $2, the second argument, and where to do id equals to $3, which is my third argument. So here I will simply send my description, then completed, and then my id. That's all. Now let's test this out from the postman. So here I have the postman, I have edit to do, and here I have 1 and 2. So for the 2, let me write code instead of read code. So send, and we have some error here, and let's try to find out what is the error. And the error is maybe we are not sending anything, and that is the error. So res.json, and let me just simply give todo.rows, something like this. Send. Okay, error again. And why do we have the error? So couple of issues. So first of all, this to-do should be to-do table, and also I think we have a comma after $2. This should be deleted. So now let me once again try to edit the to-do. So in our get to-dos we have read code, and let's change it to write code. So send, and we have an empty array, but at least we don't have an error. So looks like it works. So let me go back to my basically pgadmin, and here let me do select star from to-do table and then run, and we have write code. So that means it works. So let me just send something else other than this to-do rows, because it doesn't look like a valid response. So here the rows are empty, so we will not be able to send that. So instead of that, let me simply send a message as to do updated, and success as true. Yeah, so I guess we have another error, and this should be 1 colon and not a semicolon. Yeah, so our put works now. Now let's work on the delete. So how can we delete one to do by the id? And again the same thing, const id from my request params, and then let me create const del to do, and here we will do await, then pool.query, and what should be the query for the delete, and that is delete from to do table, where to do id equals to my $1, and then we will give the id as the argument. And let's also do our delete together, and then we will test. So for the delete by id, we have given where to do id equals to $1. For the delete, this will not be required, so we can do del all to do's equals to await pool.query, and here we can simply do delete from to do, not to do table, and then let's give one response. So res.json message will be, let's say, all to do's deleted, success true. And for the delete by id also we should give a response. So let me give the response as message to do deleted, and then success as true. Okay, now let's test these things out. So in the get to do's we have to do 1 and 2, and let me add another to do, so that we can delete 1 by the id and 2 rest of the 2 together. So in my post, let me simply do write something else. So let's say read cyber security. Yeah, I'm reading cybersecurity these days, so let me just add that as a to-do. So then send, we have the rows and these things here. So now we have 3 to-dos. Now let's say I have already read books, so now I want to delete this one. So in my delete to-do, I want to delete the to-do by ID. So let me write one here, send, to-do deleted. Now send again. So now we have these two. And lastly, we have to test for all the to-dos. So we don't have that request here. So let me just add another request. So add request, and let's write del all to-dos. The method should be delete, and the URL should be localhost 3000 to-dos. That's all. So let me send. So all to-dos deleted. If I go to get to-dos and send, we have nothing. That means it works. So we have successfully created the backend of our to-do list application. So now we will start working on the client. So you can also test these things out. Apart from the description, you can maybe add few more fields like name or something else that you can think of. So but I will leave it up to this for this portion. So in the next part, we will start building our client using React. So see you in the second part. In the previous part of this video, we have built the backend of the to-do list application and connected it with PostgreSQL. So in this part, we will build the front end using React, and I have also initialized Tailwind CSS to add the styles. So here I have the function app component, and I am simply like printing to-do list PostgreSQL. So instead of this, what do we want here? So first of all, we want some input bar where we will input our to-dos, and then we also want all our to-dos to be shown. So as of now, we already know that we have few to-dos in our like table. So if I run, okay, so we have deleted all to-dos, so we have nothing right now. But we will add the feature that from the front end, we are able to add the to-dos, and it will reflect in the database as well as in the UI. So what do we need to do for that? So first of all, let's write some code, and let's create one basic UI. So here, let me simply delete these things. I may be adding few things similar, but as of now, let's start it from scratch. So first of all, we will have our to-do list PostgreSQL. It's actually the same thing. I have done the same thing, but okay, anyway, let's proceed ahead. Then we will have another div with an empty class name, and this div should be having few things. So it will have an input placeholder. Let's give enter to do, and it will also have some value and onChange. It should be onChange. And to give these values, I also need to initialize one state variable. So let's initialize input to do, then set input to do. This will store like our inputs, whatever we are typing, equals to use state to an empty string. Now let's give the value as input to do, and the onChange as e, and then set input to do e.target.value. Yeah, and let's also give a class name. Let's give a border, and then let's increase the text size to text XL, and let's also do one rounded, maybe rounded large. Yeah, okay, why don't we give a shadow of medium? Yeah, looks good to me. Now after the input, we will have two buttons. So we will have button, this will be called add, and another button, this will be called clear, for clearing all our to-dos. And this button should also be having some styles. So for the clear one, let's give some styles. As first of all, let's increase the text size. Okay, and then let me give a gray background color, gray of 500. And okay, I think we should also do one text white. And whenever we are hovering over this button, this color should change. So whenever we are hovering, let's say we want to have a lighter shade of the gray, so 400, so like this. And this doesn't look good, the squarish buttons, so I will do rounded XL. And then let's also give some padding Y of 1 and padding X of 2. Okay, now this looks good to me. I think that's it. We don't need anything else, and I will basically copy the same thing and I will paste the same for this one also. Instead of gray, let me give a different color here. So let me give red. Yeah, looks good to me. Now this input form is not correctly aligned, so let's also try to align this thing correctly. So I will do flex, and then let me give some gap of 2, maybe 2. Yeah, and this thing should be centered also. So at the parent I will do flex and then flex column and then item center, and everything will be centered. And maybe we should also give some gap of maybe 8. Okay, I think we should also give some padding top of 8. Yeah, and this to-do list PostgreSQL, let's increase the size to text to XL. It is basically the same that we had in the beginning. And let's also give some background color of BG blue of 50. Okay, let's give some padding bottom, so PB of 32. Yeah, looks good to me. Okay, so our input form is ready. Now we will simply add the to-dos. So after my input form, I will create another div with an empty class name, and this will be my to-do container, and inside I will have individual to-dos. So let's hard code one to-do. And first of all, in my container I want to basically give, let's say, BG blue of 200. We don't see anything right now, so maybe we can give padding of 2. Okay, we see something. Let's increase the width to maybe 5/6. Yeah, now we see something, but we will see the rest once we have a to do. So inside my to do, how do we want to align our to do? So the to do will first of all have a checkbox, and then the text, and then 2 buttons for the deletion and editing. So let me create one div and then another div. So in the first div, first of all I will have an input, and this input will be checkbox, and then it will also have a checked value, and let's see what we can give over there. And after the input, it will also have one, let's say, text. So the text I will simply give a normal div. So let me write read code. Maybe we should align them correctly. So in my container I will simply do flex, and then maybe gap of 2, and let's also give some padding left of 1. Yeah, and now after these things, in my second container I will have 2 buttons. So the first button will be let's call it edit, and we will have a second button, we'll name it delete. And these buttons also I will be using similar styles like we did above. So here let me simply copy paste these things, and for the edit I will use green, and for my delete let's keep it red only. Yeah, and let me use some darker shade here. So in place of 500, let me give 600, and in place of 400 maybe we can give 500. Yeah, looks okay to me. Now let's align them correctly. So the buttons in the parent container I will do flex, and then maybe justify between, and then also items center. Okay, And I think that's all. Apart from that, maybe we should also give some background color for individual to-dos, because there will be many. So let's give a deep blue, and maybe we should also do a text of white and padding too. Okay, and lastly we should give some rounded, maybe rounded MD, rounded large may be better. And for the outside also we need to give rounded, maybe rounded large or rounded XL. And let's give some padding again, padding 2. I think padding doesn't make much sense here, so we may be giving, let's say, some extra padding of 3. Yeah, okay, looks good to me. And I think this is now fine. And also one more thing I need to do, and that is this read code. I do not want the checkbox to be changed from here. I only want these things to be changed from the edit. So what I will do is I will make these things as read only. So input type checkbox, let's make it checked, but it should be read only. Yeah, now let me see if we are getting some errors or not. Yeah, it was related to that only, like it cannot be changed or something like that. Okay, anyway, also another issue we can see is that these buttons are stacked together, so maybe we can give flex and then gap of 2. And let's also increase the maybe px here, so maybe let's make the total thing as p2. Maybe that will be better in this case, p2. Okay, I think that was the py should be 1. Let's make the px as 3 because it looks too less. No, I think 2 is better. There is no need to waste so much time in the styles. We can get a lot of time, but okay, anyway, this is how our to-dos should be like written. And if I now add another to-do, so this is the to-do container. Let me simply minimize and add another one. And this thing is stacked, so we have to give some style, like maybe some gap here. So at the top also I will do flex, then flex column, and then maybe gap of 2 maybe. Yeah, okay, now it's good. So we can delete one to do, and we can simply keep it as maybe one sample. So now we should add the functionality to our app. So what do we need to do here? So to talk with our server, we need to install some dependencies. So here I will come to my client, so cd client, and I will install Axios. Like we can also use fetch, but maybe in this app we will use Axios. We use fetch many times. So here I will simply do import Axios from Axios. That's all. And other than use state, we may also need use effect, because initially when the app renders, I will call one use effect and I will try to get all my to-dos. And apart from the input to do, we may also need few more things. So we need another like state variable for the total to-dos, and then set to-dos. We will initialize it to an empty array. And then we will also need another thing, and that is what I will call edit mode, and then set edit mode, and then use state to false. So whenever we are clicking on the edit button, I want the app to render some different component, and that is the edit mode. So whenever the edit mode is true, it will render something else. I mean, we will see this soon when we are working on the edit part. And for the edit, we may need few more variables. So I will call these things as edit to do description, and then set edit to do description equals to use state, an empty string, and then constant edit to do id, then set edit to do id. Like you may be thinking that what is the need for using these things separately? Like we can create one object also. Yeah, we can, but because we only have like 3 variables, I am creating it like this. For a more complex project, even I would prefer to use some objects. So for simplicity, let's create 3 objects, like 3 variables in this case. In case you are adding few more things, I would recommend not to use this way, use it this way. You can definitely create objects. And after edit to do ID, we have the edit to do checked, and then set edit to do checked equals to use state, and by default let's say it is false. Now first of all, what do we want to do? So in my use effect, I want to do few things. So let me call the use effect snippet, and let's say I want to get a response. So const resp equals to axios.get, and I want to get some information from my to-dos. So localhost to-do. So if I go to my API, we want to basically hit this route, so this URL. So to do that, I will create one default URL so that we don't have to write the whole URL again and again. So at the top, I can write axios.defaults.base URL equals to my localhost 3000, and then we can simply do get to-dos, and that's all. Then we can simply do hit then, and here we will get the resp, and for now let's simply log the resp and let's see what we get. And we can remove the return, and here we can simply keep an empty array. Yeah, now let's see. So we are getting some information, and if I like expand it, we have some data, and here we have nothing, we have an empty object. So whatever is our to-dos, that will be present inside our data. So let me try to add some to-dos from the backend. So in the add to-do, read cybersecurity, let's add it. In my get to-dos, send, and we have read cybersecurity. And now if I come to my front end, let me refresh, and as you can see we have the response, and here as you can see we have one object, and that is read cybersecurity. So this thing works. So we are able to get the to-dos from the API into the resp. So if I simply log resp.data and then refresh, and we will directly get this thing. Actually this thing is an array of objects, so maybe we can do data of 0, then we will get it directly. And as you can see we are getting this thing directly. Now we have hard-coded the read code. Let's say we don't want to hard-code it. Instead of that, we just want to like basically render from this to-dos variable. So how can we do that? So let me get some more space here, and here let me simply minimize the to-dos and everything. So this is our to-dos. I have minimized this thing. Yeah, and here what I want to do is I want to write a map function. So I will do is to-dos dot map, and here I will have one to-do, and not only to-do, I will have a to-do and an index, and then simply what I will do is I will return the very same thing. So now let's see what we get. We get nothing. That's quite strange. Let me refresh. We are having these things here. So to-dos.map, and inside my to-dos I have all of these things. So we have this and that, and then we are returning this. For some reason it is not taking our to-dos. So let me try to add another thing. So let me just add read code. Let's make it as false. Send get to-dos. Now we have two to-dos. Now in my front end, if I simply refresh, I have okay, the 0 will have only 1, And the reason it is not taking these things is we have the to-dos as an empty object, but we are not really setting the to-dos, so it is still an empty object, and that is why it is not able to get anything. So how can we do that? So let me simply print out resp.data, and we have an array of two objects, and we want our to-dos to be the same thing. So instead of logging this resp.data, what we want to do is we want to set this thing to the to-dos. So here we will do set to-dos equals to resp.data, and now as you can see we have two read code, and it should be like read cybersecurity and then read code, and but it is not happening because we are hard coding it. So in place of the read code, I will simply do my to do dot then to do desc, and now as you can see we have the correct things, and we have this index here, and that I want to pass as a key. So maybe we are getting some errors for the keys, so each child in a list should be having a unique key prop. So for every div this one we will have a key, and this key will be the index. Actually we can also give the key as okay, let me refresh and let me just show you that it is gone. We can also give it the todo.id, so todo underscore id. We can also give it, so refresh and it works. Anything is fine. I mean this index is like local 012 like that, and this todo id is depending on the database, so anything is fine. Okay, anyway, so basically our to-dos are coming now. Now we need to add this functionality for the add, clear, edit and all of these things. So how can we do that? So let me try to add few functions first of all. So what are the functions that we will be needing? So after the use effect, let's say we need one async function called add to do, and this add to do will have e, and that's all. Let's keep an empty function for now. The e is the default event, and after the add to do we will also have something called edit to do that will be selected when we are clicking on the edit, and this edit to do will have basically two things. First one will be e, that is the default event, and the second one will be the to do, because the edit to do function is actually being called from inside the to-dos.map to do, so it will have the access to the to do, and we also need that. And then we will have another function, let's call it delete to do or del to do in short, and it will also have e, and then it will also have the to do. I'm not sure, we don't maybe we don't need the to do. Actually we need it, we need the id. So we will have this, and lastly we will also have another function, and let's say clear all to dos, and it will only have the e. We don't need any to do or anything for that, and that's all. Now we have these four functions, and let's simply add the functions to wherever necessary. So after the button add, we will add this function that is on click my basically add to do and so on. So here on click, not on can play, on click we will have add to do, and then for the clear we will have on click we will have clear all to dos. Okay, and then for the edit and for the delete, so in this button edit we will have on click, and here we will like call it differently because we have to pass some arguments also. So we have e, and then we will call the function of edit to do, not edit mode, edit to do, and then we will pass two arguments, e and to do, and then for the delete also same thing. We will have on click, we will have e, and then we will call del to do with the e and to do. Now what do we want to do inside these functions? So first of all, in my add to do function I will be having my input text, and I basically want to post that input text into our backend, which will then be added to the database. So how can we do that? So first of all, let me try to find out whether or not we are able to get like whatever we are typing. So inside my add to do, let me simply print out my input to do. So let me write here something. Let's write write code, then we click on add, and we can see write code. That means it works. So now instead of printing this thing out, I will create one const data. This will be an object, and this object will have basically my DESC as my data, and then the completed also, and this should be false because by default the completed is false, and that's all. And then there is some error throwing data implicitly has type any because it doesn't have. Okay, it's basically TypeScript errors, but you can ignore for now. Okay, so now we want to post. So when we post something, we will also get some response. So let's write const res equals to await, and then I will do axios.post, and I want to post in my to-dos. So to-dos, and then we want to send our data. So basically I'm trying to hit this endpoint, app.post/to-dos. And now once this endpoint is hit, we will be expecting to get some like results. So the result will be this one, to do edit and success true. So let's say if the success is true, then what we want to do? We want to then basically set basically add this thing to our to-dos. So simply, first of all, let me just console log the rest, and then rest of the things we will see. So write code, add, and we have some errors. Caught in promise cannot access data before initialization. Okay, let me refresh. Write code, add. Okay, I think there is some issue over here. So const data equals to this thing, description data. Okay, actually not description, it should be description input to do, not data. We don't even have any data now. So input to do. Now let me just close this thing, add, and we have some response. So we have the response inside the data. We have the same things, to do edit, success true, basically this response. So what do we want to do now? So let's say we will check if resp.data.success. If this thing is true, then we simply want to add this thing to our to-dos array. We are not writing equals to true because these are same thing. And for false, we will simply give a not here. That's all. Some JavaScript tips. I think not required. You guys already know. But anyway, resp.data.success, what we want to do. So we basically want to do our set to-dos. It will have access to all our previous to-dos. And then I simply want to spread all the previous to-dos and then add the new to-do. So the new to-do will be resp.data. We have the new to-do, and the new to-do will be present inside the rows. So, and inside the rows it will be an array. So dot new to-do dot rows, and then the 0th row. That's all. So now let's see it works or not. So let me refresh. Okay, read cybersecurity, read code, write code. Let me simply play for a while and add, and it is added. So our add functionality works. So this is great. And then we can now focus on the other functions. And one last thing, very minor thing, and that is after we are clicking on the add, this should be gone. So I can simply do set import to do to an empty string, and yeah, let's make it sleep for a while, add, and it's gone. Yeah, so this function is done and our add functionality works. Now we will work on the edit later. Initially I want to work on the delete first because the edit will be a little bit more complex. So for the delete, it is also very simple. We will have access to the en to do, and we want to delete. So we will do const resp equals to my await axios dot delete, and then we want to hit the to-dos /id. We want to delete by id. So I will use backtick to-dos, and then how can I get the id? So we have the access to the to-do and then the to-do underscore id. So we have this thing, And then similarly, like same thing, if resp dot data dot success, if this thing is true, then we basically want to remove the to do that we want to delete. So set to dos, and here we have access to like all the previous to dos, prev to dos. And now what we want to do, so we want to simply return prev to dos dot filter, and let's say individual to do I am representing it by t, because we also have the to do in the function. And now I want to get all my elements which is not equals to the id of this to do. So how can I do that? So t dot to do id should not be equal to do dot to do id, something like this. So now okay, now let's see our delete works or not. So let me click on this one. Looks like it's working. So refresh and it works. Let me also just visit my PostgreSQL, and here if I simply run this thing, and as you can see it is also getting updated in the database. So our app is running perfectly fine. So now let's focus on the other function, that is clear all to dos. And this will be very simple, we don't need anything here. I will simply do const resp equals to axios dot it should be await axios, because these are async calls. Await axios dot delete, and I basically want to hit the delete endpoint, and that's all. So basically we are trying to hit this route over here, delete to dos. Okay, so this should be to dos, not delete. And then once everything is deleted, I want to like set my to dos to an empty array once again. So if I click on clear now, everything is gone. So now refresh and we have nothing. Write code, add, read code. So it works. Yeah, so only thing that is left is the edit one. And also there is another minor issue. So when we are clearing everything, we still have this blue line or something, and I don't want this. So only when we have to do, so I want this thing to be present as a background. Otherwise I don't want this thing. So how can I remove this thing? So we can do it very simply. We need to check that whether the to dos is empty or not, that's all. And if it's empty, we don't want this div class name, whatever this thing to be shown. So let me just cut the whole thing, and here I will simply do let's say to dos dot length. When this thing is greater than equal to 1, only then you will show the remaining things. So this, so now everything is gone. Now read code and it will appear. So that's all I wanted to do. Delete, it's gone again. Okay, write docs. Okay, good. So now let's see what we can do for the edit to do. So initially what we want to do is to have an edit mode. So whenever we are in the edit mode, I want to render a different component. So how can I do that? So let's say initially we have the edit mode as false. So whenever we are clicking on the edit, I want the edit mode to be changed to true. So how can I do that? So initially, not initially, like right now, whenever we are clicking on the edit, it is calling this function, and that is edit to do. So inside my edit to do, let's say I want to do is change the edit mode. So set edit mode to true. And now nothing will happen, it will only change this thing to true. So if I simply log my edit mode, so edit mode, we can simply get these things like true, 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 and but this doesn't help much. So what we want to do is, let's say when we have the edit mode as true, I want to do a few things. So let's say if edit mode Then I want to, let's say, return something else. Let's say edit mode, something like this. So now we are in a different place. So refresh this thing, click on edit, we are in edit mode. So now let's create the edit mode and then we will see what we can do. So what we want to do when we are in edit mode, so we basically want to see that what is our to do and all of these things, and then we should be having a way to edit them. So let's click on the edit mode and now let's see what we can do. So we have so let's say we will have a form over here. So the edit mode will be a form, and basically we want to do a few things in the form. So class name, we will give some styles. Let's say first of all, let me give one heading with text to Excel like the other component, and edit to do. Okay, and then let's also center these things. So flex call items center, then gap, like we will add few more things. So gap of 8, pt of 8, pb of maybe 24, like same as the last one. So bg blue of 15. Yeah, okay, good. So after the edit to do, we want to have the input and the checkbox. That's all. So let me create another class here, and inside this class we will have, let's say, one label, and let's name this label as to do DSC. Okay, let's increase the class name or something, and before that let me give the input, and the input type will be text, placeholder will be enter to do, value will be different. Value will be edit to do description that we have created at the top, this one. We will see like how this thing will work, and the on change will be how we change these things. So e, and then set edit to do desk e dot target dot value. Okay, so we have these things here, and now after this one we will have another div, let's say, and here we will again have a label, and this label will be for the checkbox. So let me simply write completed, and then after the completed we will have another input. So after the label, let me create another input, type will be checkbox, and then I think checked should be either true or false. So let me give true for now. Yeah, so when we are giving this true or false, like when we are defining it, this should be given to something like either some on change or some read only, like you can like go through this warning, like it's not even an error, so I won't pay much attention to it. But actually this thing should not be true. This thing should be this value, that is edit to do checked, whether this thing is true or false. So let me just do it directly without wasting any time. Let's try to complete this thing quickly. So checked is this thing, and we will also have an on change, and on change will be e, and then set edit to do checked, and that is e dot target dot checked, something like this. So it should happen like this, that's all. And lastly we will have a button, and the button will be for submit. So button, and this will be submit, and button will also have a similar class name, and the same kind of class names, basically the styles that we have given. So let me just copy these things here in the button, and instead of the red I want to make it green. It's too bright, so maybe 600 and 500. Yeah, Looks good to me. Now let me also just give some styles to the labels and all of these things. So for the to-do description, for the class name, I will give flex and gap of 4. And okay, fine. For the label, I will simply do class name and then text Excel. Okay. For the input, I will give class name and then text Excel, and then also rounded maybe LG, and then shadow of medium. Okay, I think this is fine. And also for the completed also, I will give the class name as class name. Let's give the same, that is text Excel, and maybe we should give some gap, so gap of 4. Let's try to align these things like horizontally or vertically, I don't know. So let's try to do that by giving some maybe padding. So for the description, let me give some padding left of, let's say, 16. Okay, and now for the completed one, I will give some padding right of, let's give 24, maybe 36. Yeah, okay, I think this is good. We can I mean, this is fine for us. Now another thing we want to do is whenever we are submitting this form, I want the mode to be changed. So actually whenever we are clicking on the edit to do in the other page, we are going to this page, and in this page, whenever we are submitting it, we are actually changing our to-dos. So let me just create another function, and let's name that function as sync function of update to do. So the updation will be happening on the update to do. So it will have a E, and I think that's all. And let's do it this way. Set edit mode to true, and whenever we are submitting this form, it should change it to on submit. We should call this update to do. So update to do. So now let's see, edit, submit, we are back. Edit, submit, we are back. Okay, so now let's try to save these things, whatever we are doing here. So whenever we are clicking on edit, we are coming to this page, and we are still inside this edit to do function. So we are changing the edit mode to true. Then let's also give the values to the 3 variables for the edit to do. So set edit to do description. This will be basically whatever we are having here. So to put it this way, we have write docs here. So whenever we are clicking on edit, in the to do description, there should be a default value of write docs. So, and that is basically we have the to do, and inside the to do DSC. So now if I refresh, edit, yeah, something like this, it should happen in this way. And then set my this thing, edit to do checked. This should also be like this. So to do, and then basically whether or not this thing is completed or not. So to do completed. So if completed, this will be checked because that is what we are showing here. So in my checkbox, so we have this thing. So depending on that, it will show. Right now it's not checked, so it is not showing checked, but accordingly. And also we will set the ID. So edit to do ID. This should be to do dot to do ID. That's all. And yeah, we are clicking on edit, we are setting all of these things, and then we are entering this thing, and in this part we are changing all of these things according to the function. So we are changing the edit description, we are also changing the edit to do checked. Only thing we are not changing is the to do ID, and that should not be changed. And now we are inside the update to do. So now what we want to do over here, we are changing the edit mode to true, and then we basically want to post to our put. So let's create one data, and here the description will be my edit to do desk, and my completed will be my edit to do checked. That's all. And then we will have one response, and that will be await of my axios.put. We want to hit the to do's and then the id, so I have to use backticks. So dollar here I will have to do, actually I will have edit to do id. Actually we don't really need even the edit to do id, we can directly give the to do id, but actually no, because we don't have access to the to do inside the update to do, so we need the edit to do id. So we will have it this way, and then we will send the data, and then let's try to maybe log the response resp. Okay, so now let's see what happens. So submit. Okay, something happened. Let's refresh. Okay, edit, write, let's say read docs, and when I click on submit, okay, I think this page is reloading, and that is why we are not getting those things. So it is changed to read docs, so maybe we can remove this resp. It's not really needed. I mean, only things we will be getting is these things, that is to do updated success true, but we don't really need that here, so that is fine. So here it is always checked, and that is because this is a hard-coded value, but we need to change that to to whatever is the value for the to do. So inside my to do's I will have one checkbox. So input checkbox checked, and this thing should not be checked, this thing should be checked equals to do dot to do completed. Okay, so now refresh. We have read docs, edit, write docs, completed is true, submit, and now as you can see we have write docs, and this thing is checked. Okay, read docs, add, we have read docs, this is unchecked, edit, checked, submit, this is true, and for the write docs, edit, unchecked, submit, and the write docs is now basically unchecked. So it works clear, and we have it like how it should be. So as you can see, our to-do list is now ready. So we have made the front end with React, the backend with JavaScript, and used PostgreSQL as the database. So I have made some videos on MongoDB, but now many companies are using PostgreSQL, so I thought that it's time to make a video on that also. So yeah, so thanks a lot for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.